Hey. Okay, bro, I feel like I'm going to pass out right now, but I gotta get this video done, alright? Fuck my health. Content's more important. But I noticed this while I was finishing up Xenoblade X, well, like what, a couple days ago last week. I'm surprised they even noticed this because I'm not very observant at all. So you gotta give that up for your boy, alright? Just give me this one. But NieR, the original NieR and Xenoblade X are very similar. And their story is very, very similar, and I started popping off because I had recently just started getting into NieR lore. But yeah, this is insane. So I'm gonna give like a brief overview of the Xenoblade X story and part of the original game NieR, which I'm just going to call NieR Replicant just for brevity's sake. I'm gonna give a quick overview of Xenoblade X's story and part of NieR Replicant's story, the part that's relevant and what the video is even about. I'm gonna start with Xenoblade X because obviously that's the one I'm more familiar with and y'all are most familiar with, so I'm gonna just get that one out of the way real quick because I'm gonna have to spend a little bit more time explaining the NieR part because I am a Xeno channel, so I don't expect a lot of y'all to be into NieR lore or even know what the hell a NieR is. So yeah, and it's really cool once you like start putting the pieces together and figuring out how they're so similar. It's great. There's a lot to explain for the NieR side. I think NieR lore is deeper and more complicated than Xenoblade lore, at least to me. I don't know, I like NieR lore a lot. It's more like grim and darker, which I enjoy. But anyway, starting off, before I say anything, it's obvious spoilers for NieR, the original NieR, Xenoblade X, and maybe Automata and Drakengard 1. Fuck it, spoilers for the entire NieR series and Xenoblade X, because the NieR part gets complex, right? And it all flows into each other way better than Xenoblade does. Okay, so in Xenoblade X we know Elma comes to Earth with the information that there's going to be a war over Earth and that Earth will be destroyed in that war. So she brings technology of Skells and the Lifehold Core, 7th generation quantum mainframe, the most advanced, supercomputer humanity had ever created. And with that, they started Project Exodus, which was basically to build all of the arcs and create mimizomes to transport the consciousnesses of all 20 million people, because they only brought 20 million people with them on the arcs. Project Exodus was to transport the consciousnesses of those 20 million people into their mimizomes and store their bodies in the Lifehold Core, so that, because obviously they didn't know how long they're going to be in space, so they transport their bodies into mimizomes to basically tough out the space journey, so eventually when they do find a new planet they can return back to their actual bodies. And so they're all transported into their mimizomes and they set out. 2 years later, or 2 months later, they crash down on Mira, and the white whale, the arc they were traveling on, the white whale, crashes and breaks to pieces. The Lifehold Core is missing. The Lifehold Core is crucial to humanity's existence. If the Lifehold Core runs out of power before they find it, everyone dies and humanity goes extinct. So the whole game, we set out to find a lifehold core, and we finally find it right before it runs out of power, and we restore power. Everyone thinks they're saved and we can return back to our human bodies. But Elma knew the whole time, and now just told everybody at the end of the game that all of their human bodies were actually destroyed back on Earth. When Earth was destroyed, their bodies were destroyed with it, and their mimizomes are being controlled from their consciousnesses in the lifehold core instead of from their bodies in stasis. Their consciousnesses are all uploaded into the lifehold core database, so it's basically like digital data. But the lifehold core also came with like biological material to basically reconstruct the human bodies as if they were always there, and to eventually transport their souls back into their bodies. So that's basically the recap of Xenoblade X. Y'all know. Some of y'all may not, but the majority of y'all know how Xenoblade X went down. But keep Project Exodus in mind, alright? Project Exodus, that's like the big thing you want to remember, because that is the project of transporting everybody into their mimizomes to eventually get put back into their human bodies once everything has settled down. Now, moving on to the NieR part, which is probably going to be the majority of this video. It's very confusing. It's more confusing than Xenoblade. So Drakengard is basically the predecessor to NieR. Drakengard and NieR are in like the same overall series, kind of like Xenoblade and Xenosaga, Xenogears. They're all in one big meta series. Same with NieR and Drakengard. So the true ending of Drakengard 1, ending E, is the beginning of the first NieR game. So the ending of Drakengard 1 is the beginning of NieR 1. And in NieR, there is Project Gestalt. Now, if you can kind of see where I'm going with this. All right. And I'm going to explain Project Gestalt and what it is a little bit. So Project Gestalt was initiated in an attempt to save humanity from the incurable white chlorination syndrome, which I'm just going to shorten to WCS, which was spread by the Maso after the battle between the dragon and the giant. And Maso is an extra dimensional particle brought over from the Drakengard dimension. So the final boss of Drakengard 1, after she was defeated, she fell down to Earth, down to Tokyo, where NieR takes place. That's, kicks off the start of the first NieR game, is when her body falls down and Namaso starts flaking off of her body and spreading. And if you come into contact with Namaso, you get the WCS. And in order to combat the WCS, Project Gestalt was created. And according to the project's parameters, of how Project Gestalt would work, humans would separate their souls from their bodies, reuniting the two only after WCS was eradicated from the world. The soulless replicant bodies were created from human genetic data, and their corresponding souls became gestalts. So if you can't already see, it's very similar to Xenoblade X, where their souls or the consciousnesses were transported into the mimizomes. In Project Exodus, Project Gestalt is basically the same thing, where their gestalts or their souls are transported from the gestalts, which are basically the human bodies, into replicants, so that later they would be able to be put back into their gestalts or their real bodies. This process was made possible through the success of the original Gestalt, later known as the Shadow Lord. That was his name. And the original Gestalt was the first human to keep their sapience intact during the body and soul separation process. So during the process of separating the soul and putting it into the replicant, a large majority of people would relapse, and I'll get to that in a second. And the original Gestalt, it was the first person, to not relapse from that transition. And Maso collected from the original Gestalt was thought to be the only way to prevent the Gestalt's deterioration. So obviously human bodies can't live forever, and they need some way to be preserved, so it was thought that the Maso from the original Gestalt could be used to basically preserve the human bodies, or the Gestalt. However, according to project files found by NieR, the main character, an unforeseen error occurred during the separation process from the rest of humanity. It was postulated by Devila and Popola that researchers failed to account for the original Gestalt's own genetic instability, meaning other Gestalts made following the original Gestalt's data were also corrupted. So obviously the original Gestalt had different DNA and genetic code than everyone else, so it would kind of corrupt everyone else's genetic data when they would try to use the Maso from the original Gestalt to basically preserve everyone else's bodies. Adding to that oversight was the replicants' unexpected self-awareness, which caused them to reject their Gestalts. This effect is known as a relapse, which causes Gestalts to lose their sapience and become hostile and cause the black scroll on their replicants. Now, the black scroll is a disease that you get when you relapse and reject your Gestalt. Side materials add that these imperfections are artificial errors done by someone originally in charge of planning Project Gestalt. They had wanted a world ruled only by replicants with their seemingly immortal bodies. So this was seemingly intentionally done by one of the heads of Project Gestalt in order to basically kill off the Gestalts so that humanity can live on in the replicants themselves, seemingly forever, because again, the replicants are artificially made, so they're not going to deteriorate like human bodies would. And the fusion of Gestalt and replicant after the WCS had been purged was intended to be initiated with the help of Grimoire Weiss and Grimoire NieR to make them true humans again. So using the Maso from the original Gestalt, as well as the power of Grimoire Weiss and Grimoire NieR, would help transport all of the souls from the Gestalts into the replicants all at once. Because, as I said, Project Gestalt wasn't going too well and there was a lot of errors and whatever. So, with the help of the Shadow Lord's Maso and the Grimoires, they'd be able to transport everybody all at once. And the Grimoires are basically like magic books or tomes that they could use their powers to help with Project Gestalt. But Project Gestalt ultimately failed because the main character, NieR, had killed Shadow Lord. And to explain all that, we gotta go back to around the beginning of the lore, or at least the beginning of the game. So NieR and his sister Yona were, struggling to survive in the whole post-apocalyptic era after WCS had spread across the world. So they were hiding out in a grocery store, and Grimoire Weiss was sitting there on the ground taunting NieR to use its power, and he was annoyed, so he kicked the book away. and they started getting attacked by Legion, which are basically Gnosis, and it functions practically the same as Gnosis. So if you, like, when you die from the Black Scroll, or I think just in general, I don't really remember, when you die you unify into basically a collective unconscious, and if you reject that unification you become a Legion. It's literally the same process as becoming a Gnosis. So NieR and Yona were being attacked by these Legion, so NieR finally gave in and tried to use the power of Grimoire Noir, and when he touched it he didn't relapse, which means he was the new original Gestalt. And sometime after that he found out Yona had also touched Grimoire Vice, even though he told her not to, and she got very sick and eventually gained the Black Scroll. So sometime later he goes on to find a cure for her, and I think the government takes her, or someone takes her in order to like quarantine her in order to basically cure her. And this is where my memory gets a little fuzzy. I may be wrong about this either chronologically or just at all, but eventually NieR finds out that his sister was taken to basically cure her. She was quarantined so they could cure her, and so he starts working with, I think it was the government, I don't remember, whoever was running Project Gestalt. He was working with them because he was the new original Gestalt, so he was needed in order to make sure everything worked out the way it was supposed to. And eventually found out that Yona was not getting better and there was no cure for the Black Scroll, and finding out that he had been lied to the entire time by the people running Project Gestalt, he rebelled and broke Yona out and escaped. He was no longer helping with Project Gestalt, which would eventually doom humanity to extinction. And in his rebellion, he killed the Shadow Lord. I don't know much about the Shadow Lord and, why NieR fought him, but eventually NieR did fight the Shadow Lord and killed him, as long as destroying Grimoire Noir, one of the grimoires needed to basically initiate Project Gestalt. And with the Shadow Lord and one of the grimoires gone, it was impossible to complete Project Gestalt, dooming humanity to extinction, and eventually everyone died out. Now, I'm already this far, so I might as well talk about how that connects into NieR Automata, how Project Gestalt connects into NieR Automata. It is revealed in NieR Automata that as a result of NieR killing the Shadow Lord, Project Gestalt failed and humanity became extinct within 1,000 years. This event led to the creation of Yorha, a project whose goal was to destroy all the machines and perpetuate the lie that humanity had managed to escape to the moon and survive there. So Yorha, all the androids, this is thousands of years after the original NieR. Androids were created to basically fight off the machines that were invading Earth, so that one day humans could come back to Earth, because they were told that humanity fled to the moon in safety, or when Earth was safe to come back. And all of the androids, including the majority of Yorha, were lied to, saying that humanity had retreated to the moon when obviously they had been extinct for thousands of years. And the reason they were lied to was so that androids would have a motivation to keep fighting and give meaning to their existence, since their creation was done solely to protect humanity. The whole motto is glory to mankind. Their entire purpose was to basically fight the machines so that humanity, their saviors or their gods, would come back to Earth. And two androids in particular, Devla and Popola, because of their failure to stop the original NieR from killing Shadow Lord and basically dooming Project Gestalt, Devla and Popola model androids, so every model after the original Devla and Popola were blamed for the project's failure, and as a result, all future Devla and Popola models were hardwired to harbor constant guilt over their predecessors' failures. And most other androids regarded them with scorn and suspicion. The Devla and Popola that appear in Automata were overseers of an unnamed town during the era of the original NieR. They were around in the original game. But over the many years since Project Gestalt's failure, they were treated as outcasts. They eventually made their way to the resistance camp, where they are treated as pariahs and consistently given the most grueling and arduous chores available, while also serving as camp medics. So the entire series is all like interconnected, I'd say more so than Xenoblade. But basically the main like similarity between Xenoblade X, specifically in NieR, the first one, specifically Replicant, was Project Gestalt and Project Exodus are basically the exact same thing, transporting the souls of humans from their original bodies into, a synthetic body. In the case of NieR, souls from their Gestalts into replicants, and in Xenoblade X from their bodies into mimeosomes, in hopes that they'd be able to return later on. So it's a really nice little similarity. I don't know if that was intentional, if maybe Takahashi was a big fan of NieR and decided to base at least part of Xenoblade X off of that. So yeah, I really like that trope. Is that a trope? I don't know. I really like that way that, I guess I don't really know what else to call it, so I'll just say a trope. I like that trope of transporting the souls into basically artificial bodies in hopes of returning later on. But the only difference is that in Xenoblade X, has a happier ending, and they are successful, found the Lifehold core, restored the power, and saved humanity. NieR took a darker turn, where NieR, the character, basically doomed Project Gestalt and sent humanity to their inevitable extinction. So if you couldn't tell, I've been getting really into NieR lore lately. So I haven't played the original NieR yet. I started with Automata. I haven't even finished Automata, but I need to, and eventually I will be playing the original NieR. But NieR lore, it's a lot more complex than what I had just said. I just gave a brief overview of Project Gestalt and how it's similar to Project Exodus. But yeah, that was kind of nice. So I kind of really just made this video just as a reason to talk about NieR lore, because NieR lore is very interesting. I just wanted a reason to show off what I learned, alright? Sound smart a little bit. But yeah, Xenoblade X and NieR Replicant are very, very similar. And it's very cool. It's just that NieR took a darker, more grim turn. But yeah, the NieR lore is so much more complex and intricate than how I explained it. So I definitely recommend playing the series for yourself. But yeah, that's really about it. So as always, Thanks for watching. Have a damn good day. Stay safe. Be well. Play some goddamn Xenoblade.